So it finishes Manchester United 1, Arsenal 1. Of course, another significant result with regards to the title race. Liverpool will win it now. There's absolutely no question about that, even if there was going into this side. That debate is very much being put to bed. Liverpool 15 points clear at the top of the table. Arsenal with a game in hand, but too little, too late from Arteta's side. For Manchester United, they pick up a point. They remain 14th in the table, level with Spurs, who of course draw with Bournemouth. Frank Leboeuf joins us. We'll be hearing from Frank in a moment. But where do we start with this game, Craig?
Well, it's become quite an embarrassment from Arsenal in terms of it's like been hit with a feather duster, this title challenge. 15 points. It's not the referee's fault. It's not just because Bukayo Saka's injured. It's not because Kai Havertz is injured. It's not because everybody's against him, which was the mindset for a lot of this season. They've given up the ghost. And I think one of the things Mikel Arteta said was the first half they were, I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, they were terrific, or their football was excellent. And then in the same sentence he said, but we didn't work the goalkeeper. You know, how many saves did Onana make in that first half? With all that Arsenal possession, I can't really think of any. So you're not terrific. You're not terrific if your end product is lacklustre or non-existent. And that's what, you know, I don't want to talk. Man United is Man United. They are what they are, right? And it was a non-existent performance for 45 minutes, apart from the Fernandes free kick. But if you're the biggest title challenger to Liverpool, and this is the kind of performance you put in at one of the worst teams in the Premier League, which they are, and they've beaten now. They've now taken points off Arsenal and knocked them out of the FA Cup. I'm not having it that this is because we haven't got a striker.
So what's the problem? Is the personnel out there not good enough?
Tell me, to those people out there that say, "Oh, if we had Kai Havertz or Gabriel Jesus," tell me an incident in that game where you sat back and would have said, "Do you know what? If we had a clinical front man, we would have scored that goal." There's none. It was overhit crosses. It was bad final balls. It was shots from 20 yards. Like Declan Rice almost had to score a fantastic goal to get them a point. But this is not because they don't have a front man. This is because their recruitment in the summer was not good enough. This is because they sat in their hands in January when they had injuries, and they've almost wallowed in their own self-pity now. They might go on and win the Champions League. I don't know. It's all they've got left to play for. But when you've got, I go back to this, and the camera kept cutting to him. When you go out and splurge a salary and an extra body on a player in Raheem Sterling, we almost all sat here and said, why are Arsenal bringing him in? And then you have to go to youngsters like Wanyeri and others. When you're in need, you're chasing Liverpool down, or you're trying to. That ghost is gone, but they were trying to a few weeks ago. And you've brought in players that basically are not up to the task, and you can't use them. This, for me, is an Arsenal problem. 15 points behind, and they're the nearest challengers. They'll be lucky at this point to finish above Nottingham Forest. So the excuses, I think, for Arteta and blah, 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 are kind of running out for me.
For me, there's simply no creativity through midfield. Well, certainly up against a team that are willing to sit deep and crowd their own box.
So what happened? Because a couple of seasons ago, Arsenal was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Very similar personnel. I know Saka's injured, but it's one player. But then it was all about the defence. And this season it feels like it's all about the set piece.
Well, to Craig's point, while no, Arsenal did not have those chances that you would say, had we had a proper front man, we score those. Maybe just in terms of linking up the play, just in terms of movement inside the box against a team that is sitting deep. And I think you saw that. And Ruben Amorim in his post-game press conference said, we had a look at Arsenal PSV. PSV tried to press Arsenal high up the park, and look what happened. We just sat deep. And which is exactly what Manchester United did. They sat deep, did not put anybody to confront the ball, at least until Arsenal got past the centre circle itself. So it was a very congested 30 or 40 yards, even more so when you get close to the box. And as a result, Arsenal were passing the ball very nicely, had a lot of possession, but Onana largely was unworked. So now without, maybe it's because you need that front man, maybe just to engage those centre halves, maybe just to make better movements inside a crowded box. But for whatever reason, they don't have that creativity, and taking nothing away from the likes of Odegaard and how good he is, but just somebody to unlock that congested box. They don't have that person. And it took a very good Declan Rice strike. Odegaard had a couple efforts from outside the box. Trossard had one himself that he put just wide. But other than that, they weren't able to create gilt-edged opportunities. And that has been Arsenal's Achilles heel all season long. I know we've put that down to the lack of frontman, but that's been the story of their season.
Frank, you just get the feeling that these players amongst the squad have kind of deteriorated, have trended downwards as the season has gone on.
Yeah, you're right. And I try to analyze what I was seeing, and I say why they played a certain way. And we're going to talk about Chelsea, the same thing, that they were more vertical, they were more straightforward, and now they try to keep the possession of the ball, which is, useless. They got like 70% of possession for almost nothing, especially the first half. But, football has changed, I think, and some coaches are not ready to follow the path and change as well. And those people are people who have been working with Guardiola. Maresca, we're going to talk about him after. Arteta as well. They are people who've been who study football in a way of keeping it, tiring the opponent at the end to score, in order to score. But it doesn't work like that nowadays, and we can see what happened to Arsenal opponents. They sit back, they know exactly what to do, and if the team is not changing gears at a certain time, it doesn't work. Only Trossard tried the first half to do something. Odegaard is a very pleasant player to watch, he's elegant, he knows technique and everything, but he's a little bit slow. And sometimes there were opportunities that he couldn't see. It's hard. If you're on the field, it's different than when you watch a game on TV. But something has to change at a certain point. The last third, you have to change the gear and change the pace. And some players like Nwaneri or Lewis Kelly, when he came on, are capable of doing that. Trossard. But they don't do that. Like they are refrained by the coach. And that's why, for me, we don't see the Arsenal that we saw before. They're so slow, they never pace up, they never try to surprise, it's so easy to read them, and it's why there is no good results. And that's, for me, the explanation. And those people, the sons of Guardiola, have to change the way of thinking the football, otherwise they're going to get stuck.
It's the third attempt, if you want to call it an attempt, at a title challenge. They went head-to-head with Man City on a couple of occasions and then faltered at the end. Not too much criticism for that, because they were a little less experienced and City were a bit of a juggernaut in those days. But now this is a hell of a weak attempt at a title challenge, and they have been the only title challengers. And when people might say, well, what about City? But City have got a lot in the bank because they've won all these titles. They've won the Champions League, they've won the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and so forth. So they can get away with a drop-off. Now, there's a big question, will they come back and be as strong? I think that is a huge question. But Arteta doesn't have that in the bank. At this moment in time, he's a nearly man, isn't he, in the Premier League? And here we have a new manager in Arne Slot coming in, taking over a good squad. There's no doubt about that, a good squad, but a squad that wasn't good enough to challenge all the way last year as they faltered. And he's taken them without any major surgery and just a few tweaks in his tactical approach and how they approach the game, and all of a sudden they're like a runaway train. So it's not a good look for Mikel Arteta. Yeah, there is some credence to, we definitely missed Shaka, that we missed Odegaard early in the season, Havertz, whatever, but not to the extent where they're playing the way they're playing and they're as far behind Liverpool as they are. He's got leeway at the moment, but if we're sat here next year in March and they are not in the title race and they have spent money in the summer and Liverpool or City or somebody else is running away with it, his backside is going to be on the hot seat. Trust me. There's only so long you can keep this going. As good a job as you have done, and he has done a good job to a certain extent, but does it need somebody else to raise that bar and jump over that bar? Has he taken this Arsenal side as far as he can go? I think we're going to find that out in the next 12 to 18 months. If he really is able to take them to the pinnacle of English football, or whether it's going to take somebody else to come in, like Arne Slot has done, and take Liverpool to that next level, which he has. Is that in the back of the mind of the Arsenal money men and directors? And I think in a year's time, I think we'll find out the answer.
Are they missing like a superstar? You look at teams that have been successful in the past. Manchester City, of course, have Kevin De Bruyne. They had Haaland. You go back all the years and the success they had. Liverpool have Salah. Real Madrid have Vinicius Jr., Benzema. You go back to all of these kind of teams that have been successful. Arsenal are missing, aren't they? That little bit of that big bit of star quality, where in days like today, you can take the game by the scruff of the neck and win it for them.
I know, and you know, Odegaard does lots of nice things, and he does play some great little passes. But sometimes I do think it's a bit side to side at times, and then there's no doubt Saka is a quality footballer. But is he a game changer with the kind of numbers of the players that you're talking about? I'm not sure about that. So it may take a more team effort to get them over the line, which they're not, to me, a million miles away from having. But the big question, I think, is when they get all those components fit and available for a whole season, or the most of them, because you can't always go a season with everybody fit, is Arteta just going to come up short and getting this very good Arsenal side when everybody's fit over the line? I think that is going to be the next question.
I think the easy answer and the obvious answer, which you've all been kind of harping on all season long, is they need that striker, right? And to your question, they need somebody with enough of a presence, enough of a personality to lead the line, to take some of the pressure off the rest of the team. And from that, maybe you have a star name kind of emerge, as opposed to having that ready-made name like a Mo Salah or Harry Kane. And I say that because I think back to Bayer Leverkusen last season, and the season and they were the story of European football. And while Florian Wirtz kind of emerged as that big name, that star, as did Xavi Alonso, coming in, they weren't the names on everybody's lips. We wanted to see what they would do, how far they would go, and given the season that they had, now they're recognised as that mercurial talent, and maybe that's what's missing for Arsenal. That one piece, get them over the line, and then all of a sudden, we're having different conversations about Bukayo Saka, about Martin Odegaard.
The concern is, though, Frank, that line seems to be getting further away instead of closer.
I didn't hear what you said because somebody was talking to me. But if I go to what Shaka said, you know, I have to disagree because the star in other teams are not striker. I don't know which team, big teams, big clubs, you find a club star. Salah is not a striker. Mbappe is not a striker. He's been put there. He's not a striker. And so many others. Yamal, Musiala. They around. You don't really need a striker if you have a real talent. And that's what is missing at Arsenal for me. We don't see that because we don't have I don't know, a Bergkamp, a Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry wasn't a striker. He was playing on the left side, you know. And some others. You have talents everywhere. You need maybe a leader. You need somebody who does something special, like Messi, like Ronaldo, but they don't have it. And not necessarily, and I agree with Craig, today it wasn't because they needed a striker. Because even a striker wouldn't have touched any ball, like Alan with Manchester City. They play handball, sorry. They play handball, they go around, and nothing happened. That's what it is. That's the football they play, which doesn't suit the player that they are on the field.
Meanwhile, Manchester United.
Oh.
Yeah, a slight step forward with their second half performance. Their first half performance, I know they were sitting deep, as Shaq said, but it really was, in terms of possession, a shocker. Caused more problems in the second half. David Raya definitely made more saves, or more important saves. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Too much to say. Dug out a result. Is it a step forward? They got a big game in midweek. I don't know. I don't know what to say about United, really.
Well, you see where United are best. Against better opposition, sit deep, soak pressure up, hope to hit you on the break. That's who Manchester United have become. That's just who they are as a football club right now. You contrast that with what you saw in midweek against Sociedad, against a team that they were favoured. They played on the front foot. And then the one difference here is Manchester United took the lead against Sociedad, didn't quite know what to do with it. And then when Sociedad got the equaliser, United just folded. That wasn't the story today, at least. They took the lead, kept to their game plan. Arsenal got the equaliser, and at least Manchester United was still resilient. But to Craig's phrasing, that's as much as you can offer for Manchester United. That's just who they are right now. A defensive team that will hope to hit you on the break, hope to catch you slipping.
Don't they deserve more credit, Frank? I think it was only Jules who thought this was going to be a draw. Everyone else went for Arsenal. So United obviously have done something right today.
Yeah, they did right. They worked hard. They worked all together. They weren't surprised by the Gunners, so it may be easier to play 5 at the back, two lines and working all together. But they did work together, and they had the best chances. At the end of the day, you watch the game, you say, well, I think Manchester United should have won the game. Sorry, and that's only fair. They had the best chances. They worked hard. They never gave up, and credit to them. And yeah, they were awful the first half, but the genius Fernandes found an absolute fantastic free kick. But that's it. But it says a lot about some teams. They cannot create. According to what the guy said in the studio, they need to sit back and wait for a better team to create and counter-attack. But most teams in Europe are like that right now. That's a statement. They don't know how to create, and Arsenal couldn't create as well. If they have an open game like they had against PSV midweek, because Champions League, because you play at home, you want to do something, so they play counter-attack, it's easier. As soon as a team sits back, you don't see much, and that's worrying for me.
This result said more about Arsenal than Man United. And the reason I say that is it was so easy for Arsenal in the first half to play the ball around like it was a training match. But they didn't do anything with it. And is that United defending great, or just Arsenal being lacking guile and creativity in the final third? I think it's the latter. But it was embarrassingly easy. So I think United get a result because Arsenal, for want of a better phrase, have given up the ghost in this Premier League title race, and it sort of felt that way. But trust me, these Arsenal players for 45 minutes, until that Fernandes goal, which was, the first thing really of any note, they didn't have to break sweat. I mean, they were just playing it around, and United couldn't get close to anybody. I mean, they couldn't get any deeper. They'd be standing on Anana's toes. And that's not tactics. That is parking the bus. So this United result, although they were better in the second half, says more about Arsenal's performance with the amount of ball they had than it did, in my opinion, about some great tactical United defensive performance. Any side that had, proper guile and imagination and pace to their play would have probably taken this United side apart in the first half. But it kind of tells you where Arsenal are. Not in the Champions League. They've been slightly different. In the Premier League recently, this is, unfortunately, and maybe we should have adjusted our predictions because of that, but they've been quite pedestrian in the last...
probably adjust them now.
What do you mean? Well, I can't go back. I've already given it.
Who's going to win the league now?